It started with a single post on Facebook. "That bitch is dead." The words sent a shockwave through the small town of Springfield, Missouri. Friends, neighbors, people who had once opened their hearts and wallets, now stared in disbelief. The mother who had devoted her life to caring for her sick, wheelchair-bound daughter, murdered. And the helpless child? Gone. When police arrived at the home, they expected tragedy. But nothing could have prepared them for the truth. A quiet house. Pastel-colored walls. A collection of stuffed animals resting on a hospital bed. A home filled with the kind of warmth reserved for a mother and her fragile child, a girl who had spent her entire life battling illness after illness. For years, the community had rallied around them. Doctors diagnosed. Charities donated. Strangers who had never met them sent money, gifts, and prayers. A mother who had sacrificed everything. A daughter who, despite every hardship, never lost her bright, hopeful smile. It was the perfect story. A testament to resilience. A symbol of a mother's unwavering love. Until one night, that love was violently ripped apart. A knife. A bedroom. A body left to rot for days. The walls that had once protected a fragile child now held something else. Something much darker. Something that had been hidden in plain sight for years. Because the story the world believed, the story of a mother and her daughter, was a lie. And the real story? That was just beginning. If you're intrigued by the hidden truths behind shocking crimes, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We uncover the details others overlook, bringing you the full story, no sensationalism, just facts. Now, back to the case. To the world, Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard was the definition of a devoted mother. A woman who had given up everything to care for her chronically ill daughter, Gypsy Rose. She moved them from town to town, seeking better doctors, more treatments, and a fresh start wherever she could find one. People saw a mother who never left her daughter's side. A woman who navigated a life filled with hospital visits, prescription bottles, and endless medical paperwork. They saw sacrifice. They saw love. But behind closed doors, there was another side to Dee Dee Blanchard, one that few ever saw. Gypsy Rose Blanchard was the perfect daughter. Sweet. Soft-spoken. Always smiling. The world saw a girl who had been dealt an impossible hand, born into sickness, confined to a wheelchair, dependent on her mother for survival. But what they didn't see, was the fear. Gypsy wasn't just sick, she was made to be sick. From infancy, Dee Dee told doctors that something was wrong. First, it was leukemia. Then muscular dystrophy. Epilepsy. Vision impairment. Hearing loss. A long list of conditions, carefully crafted, always shifting. When Gypsy's teeth began falling out from the unnecessary medications, Dee Dee blamed the disease. When she struggled to hold down food because of a feeding tube she never needed, Dee Dee said it was a digestive disorder. No one questioned it. Gypsy was subjected to endless treatments, surgeries, medications, procedures. She lost her hair, not from chemotherapy, but because Dee Dee shaved it to fit the lie. But it wasn't just doctors who were fooled. They watched Gypsy grow up believing she was dying. They saw a child dressed in Disney princess costumes, rolling through charity events in a wheelchair, speaking in a soft, high-pitched voice, forever frozen in the body of a fragile little girl. Except she wasn't. Gypsy could walk. She could eat. She could think. But every time she tried to break free, even to whisper the truth, Dee Dee was there. Escape wasn't an option. Gypsy had tried. She had reached out. To friends. To family. But Dee Dee always found a way to pull her back, to erase her attempts, to make her disappear into the role she was forced to play. She was trapped in a world designed just for her. A world where she was weak. Helpless. Dependent. A world she would never escape, unless she found someone who could help her. And in 2012, she did. She was meticulous. Charming. Always in control. No one questioned her, because who would? A mother knows her child best. If she said Gypsy needed a feeding tube, the doctors placed it. If she insisted her daughter couldn't walk, no one dared to suggest otherwise. But her authority went beyond medical decisions. It extended into Gypsy's entire life. She controlled what Gypsy ate, what she wore, what she believed. She decided when Gypsy spoke and to whom. She chose what illnesses she had, how sick she needed to be, and what procedures would come next. Doctors who raised concerns found their careers questioned. Neighbors who grew suspicious were pushed away. Dee Dee held the perfect disguise, the grieving, exhausted mother just trying to give her daughter a chance at life. They received money. Free trips. A house built by Habitat for Humanity. Organizations bent over backward to make their lives easier. And the more they gave, the worse Gypsy seemed to get. But no one saw the truth. No one saw what was really happening behind that pastel-colored door. For Gypsy, life wasn't just about hospitals and medications. It was about control. A prison built not from bricks, but from fear. And the only way out was unthinkable. The conversations grew darker. What started as an escape fantasy became something real, something irreversible. Gypsy told Nicholas everything, how her mother controlled her, how there was no other way out. She called him her savior, the one person who could finally set her free. Nicholas agreed. He said he would do anything for her. Anything. They discussed the details carefully. When? How? What he would need. Gypsy gave him instructions. She told him where the knives were kept. She described how her mother slept. She planned when to leave the door unlocked so he could enter without a sound. There was no hesitation. No second-guessing. They convinced themselves this was the only way. And once the plan was set, all that was left was to follow through. The date was chosen. The weapon was ready. And as night fell over that quiet house in Springfield, Gypsy and Nicholas were about to cross a line that could never be undone. Then, it began. Everything had been set in motion. There was no turning back. Gypsy waited in her room, heart pounding. The house was silent except for the hum of the TV in her mother's bedroom. She had left the door unlocked just as planned. Nicholas arrived, dressed in dark clothing, gloves on his hands. Gypsy didn't watch. She couldn't. She covered her ears, retreating into herself, waiting for it to be over. In the other room, Dee Dee slept, unaware that danger was just feet away. Nicholas stepped inside. A blade in his hand. What happened next was brutal. Quick. Violent. Dee Dee woke up, but it was too late. She fought, tried to resist, but the attack was relentless. Within moments, the struggle ended, and the house fell silent again. Gypsy didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, knowing life as she knew it had just changed forever. They cleaned up as best they could, gathering the evidence, leaving behind only what they couldn't carry. Then, together, they walked out the door, leaving the past behind them. Or so they thought. For the first time in her life, Gypsy was free. No more needles. No more pills. No more fear of her mother's control. She and Nicholas left town, believing they had escaped unnoticed. They checked into a motel, spending the next few days together as if nothing had happened. Gypsy dyed her hair, dressed in clothes she had never been allowed to wear. She laughed. She smiled. But the reality of what they had done was inescapable. The crime scene they left behind wouldn't stay hidden for long. Dee Dee's body lay undiscovered for days, her house eerily quiet. Then, a message appeared on Facebook, one Gypsy and Nicholas had posted. A taunt. A confession hidden in plain sight. Friends and neighbors were horrified. Police were called. The investigation began. It didn't take long to uncover the truth. Suspicion turned to shock as authorities learned that Gypsy, the fragile girl in the wheelchair, wasn't sick at all. That she had been walking, thinking, planning. That the story everyone believed was a lie. And now, the world knew. Gypsy and Nicholas weren't on the run. They hadn't covered their tracks. They had left behind a trail that led straight to them. And when the police arrived at their door, it was over. The knock on the door ended everything. Authorities tracked Gypsy and Nicholas to his home in Wisconsin. They were taken into custody without resistance. The girl who had once been seen as helpless was now in handcuffs, facing the consequences of a crime that shocked the nation. Interrogations revealed the full extent of the deception. Gypsy confessed, detailing years of medical abuse, her mother's control, and the desperate plan she believed was her only way out. Public opinion was divided. Some saw her as a victim who had been pushed too far. Others saw a manipulator who had orchestrated her mother's murder. Nicholas showed no remorse. He claimed he had done it for love, that Gypsy had wanted this. His trial painted him as a willing participant, fully aware of his actions. The jury agreed. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Gypsy's fate was different. Her years of abuse were taken into account. A plea deal was reached, 10 years for second-degree murder. A far lighter sentence than many expected. Today, Gypsy is behind bars, but for the first time, she says she is truly free. No more lies. No more control. Only time. But the question remains, was this justice? Or was Gypsy just another casualty in a life she never chose? The case of Dee Dee Blanchard remains one of the most disturbing stories of deception, control, and desperation. A story that reminds us that sometimes, the truth is far more terrifying than fiction. This case leaves us with difficult questions about control, desperation, and the lengths people will go to for freedom. Was Gypsy a victim, a criminal, or both? What would you have done in her place? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a deep dive into the world of true crime. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.